Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another lecture on purifying our heart. I want to start with the dua that we did not last session, but when we talk about Surah Al-Fatiha. And it says, Allahumma alhimni rushdi wa'idni min sharri nafsi. O Allah, inspire my heart to guidance. Give me ilham of the guidance and save me from the evil of my nafs. Save me from the evil of my desires. Save me of the evil of my bad thoughts. Okay? So we start with this beautiful dua and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this lecture beneficial for all of us. Ameen. We will start with this verse, which is pretty much related to what we did in last session. And it says, Allah, exalted and majestic, is the protecting friend of those who believe. He takes them out of darknesses into light. And for those who disbelieve, their patrons are false deities. They bring them out of light into darkness. Such are rightful owners of the fire. They will reside therein. So, how is this verse related to everything we have done up to now? If we take it in relationship with what we have seen in the last sessions, we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the wali. The protecting friend is the wali. What is a friend? A friend is someone which is closed. A protecting friend or a wali is like the patron, like the master, and it loves the person that he's protecting. So our Creator is leading us, guiding us, okay, based on the Iman to the light. He's bringing us out of darkness. Okay, and if we relate the darkness to what we have seen before, we relate it to that little world in my mind where I think I know the answers. Okay, I can relate it to that state of mind where I don't see beyond, or I don't see the source. When I start seeing everything mixed and complicated, it makes no sense. We don't know what's really going on. Everything is separated. Nothing is related to anything. I am the victim of the world. I am the victim of everyone. You know, when we are in that dark state of mind, okay, we cannot see but mess. So our Creator, our wali, takes us out of that darkness and start bringing us into light, where everything start making sense, where all the pieces start getting in our mind, into our puzzle, start finding its place. But for those who disbelieve, their patrons, their false deities, they are not God. They are not the real one. They are not the haq. Okay? So those false deities, those false gods, bring them out of light into darkness. So when a person is in a state of shirk, and let's say give the example of somebody who worships an idol. Is it really the idol that he is worshipping? I mean, if we think about it, the idol, how can an idol made of a stone bring someone from light into darkness? If it's made, even if it's when it's handmade by the same human beings, when it's completely inanimate, if I throw it in the floor, it will break. How can a statue or an image can lead me from light into darkness? So it's not really the idol what I'm worshiping, I mean the man-made idol, what I'm worshiping is the meaning behind it. Okay? It's a belief system which is based on falsehood. Okay? So when I am worshiping anything but God, I'm worshiping really my beliefs, my nerves, my desires, my mental structure based on it's like every ideology, even the ones that reject any kind of religion or cult, are a way of religion. They are a religion on their own. Because when I make or indoctrinate people to follow a system and they believe that this is the ultimate reality, they are having a religion, even though they are not aware of it. So anything besides God will bring me into darkness, because anything besides Him does not possess the truth. It does not possess the light. Everything is based on assumptions and man-made ideas. And behind everything created by man, which turns into an ideology, it's the creator of that ideology belief system based on his desires, or on his resentments, or on his fear, etc., etc. So that's how the idols or the false gods take anyone who follows them from light into darkness. So if a person is worshipping his own desires are dictating what he should do, and he's responding and following and obeying, that false desire, which at the end is himself, will take him into darkness and make him deeper into darkness. Such are rightful owners of the fire, because they live a fire anyway. They live a hell on this dunya anyway. Because anything that doesn't come from the source will produce sadness. Everything that does not come from the source, from the hub, will produce grief, will produce fear, will produce anxiety, will produce depression, etc., etc., etc. And I'm not saying by no means that people who have Iman cannot suffer from depression. Everybody, have, we saw it, I think, in the hadith before, like how the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave more of attention and help to those who need it, because we all need support, but in different ways. Some require more support in something than others. So of course, it doesn't mean that we are not entitled to feel whatever, these things are there. But I'm talking in general terms, when there is nothing out there, when the world doesn't make any sense to us, when we perceive ourselves as separate from the rest of mankind, where the situations that I'm living are really random and they got no relationship with the reality. Okay, when for me everything I perceive is the truth, when my reality is only based on my thoughts, all of that leads me to live a hell, okay, in the dunya. And if I get stuck to that, I don't want to give up on that. Okay, Allah says, a rightful owner of the fire, and they will reside therein, because they have been residing therein anyway in the dunya. Okay, so it's like basically we will continue our existence in the same state that we are right now. And there is a beautiful saying of Ibn Taymiyyah that says, truly, there is a heaven in this world, and whoever does not enter it will not enter the heaven of the next world. And usually we have the concept that religion is meant to make us miserable, and that we are supposed to do lots of sacrifices in order to enter Jannah in the next world. So basically, we will think that we have to live a hell here in order to get a Jannah there, and that's not true. That is completely false belief. Okay, that's what our nafs or our critical thinking or our shaitan waswas, through the waswas wants us to believe. But it's not real. Because whoever free himself from fake beliefs will experience peace, sakina, happiness, joy. But the real one, not the fake one that we think it is. Of course, when we have a concept in our mind about what happiness is, what sakina is, what all of that is, and we don't experience it, we think that we are being deprived of it. Because we are, creating these thoughts about what things are when the reality is completely different. So, if we can enter in this heaven, which is the heaven of Iman, inshallah we will enter in the heaven of the next world. So we will start talking about Ghafla. What is the meaning of Ghafla in Arabic? It's forgetting, being unmindful. It's negligence due to littleness of consideration and of vigilance, resulting in following the soul in whatever it desires. Okay, so when I'm unmindful, when I am negligent, when I don't do enough consideration or vigilance about myself, what happens is I start unconsciously responding to whatever my soul asks me for, my untrained soul. And I start thinking the thoughts I have in my mind are real, and I start following them or being affected by them. So if my thoughts are coming and saying things, I start believing them, and I start believing the perceptions I have about situations. That is all ghafla. Okay, ghafla is opposite to awareness. Ghafla is actually opposite to taqwa, which is a higher degree of consciousness, which is consciousness of God. So opposite of awareness, it is total unawareness. It is spiritual ignorance. Okay, it's also translated as negligence. It is the mother of all evil traits, of all maladies, because it does not allow us to see ourselves. It does not allow us to have an objective, sincere self-observation. We are only looking outside, never inside. Okay? Ghafla will make us believe that the diseases that we talk about or any ill trait is in everyone but not in me. So due to ghafla, when I'm in relationship with people, I can notice and be really affected by certain things I see and blame the other person but never consider it if maybe this trait is on me. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, have they not traveled through the land and have their hearts wherewith to understand and ears wherewith to hear? Verily, it is not the eyes that grow blind, but it is the hearts which are in the breast that grow blind. Subhanallah. So he's talking about the people that when they travel around the land, okay, what happens is when you experience life, you are acquiring the signs and the ayat of the Creator. You are acquiring the signs of the reality. So if we are not capturing the message, but we are stuck in our fake belief system, it's because we have hearts that do not understand. And remember, that is not the brain and the mind that need to work on analyze things. That is the problem. That's why we do not comprehend most of the times, because we are trying to understand with our mind, not with our heart. okay? And they have ears wherewith to hear. Yani they can hear. The sense of hearing is okay, it's working. But it's not, they are not listening with the heart, okay? They are not having a full comprehension of reality due to the negligence. So Allah says, it's not the eyes that grow blind, but it's the hearts which are in the breast that grow blind. Another verse says, they are those upon whose hearts hearing and sight Allah has set a seal, and they are the heedless, yani the ghafilun. The hearing, the sight might be working, the sense itself, the physical sense is working, but nothing of what the person hears, or nothing of what the person sees, or nothing of what the heart comprehends, or the heart doesn't comprehend, the mind perceives. It's not going through the process of understanding it with the heart. Okay? It's not doing that step. It's only focused on exterior perception and reasoning it with the mind, and not let the soul look at it. Okay? From an internal point. But for that, the person needs to know that what is out there is a reflection of himself. If we are not aware of this, if we are not aware of what I see outside is a reflection of myself, of my own confusion, if the confusion I perceive outside if I cannot see that it's a reflection of my own confusion, then I will go and blame the exterior world for being confused. But when I see the confusion around me, and I see that it's reflecting my self-confusion, then I can start attending myself. Because there is a turning point in which my eyes are not looking anymore outside, but they are giving thanks to the mirrors and doing a self-observation. So, Ghafla and delusion are basically sisters, The delusion is a dangerous state, okay? And it's when we think that we are doing good, but we are not really doing great. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "O humankind, indeed Allah's promise is haqq, is true. So do not let the life of this world delude you. Do not let the life of this world cheat you, okay? And do not let the arch-deluder delude you about Allah." Yani referring to the shaitan. Do not let his tricks, do not let his, like you can call it jahiliyyah, his fake belief system that he's establishing, get to you and confuse you and take you away from the Creator, from the reality. It's like we are here, we receive guidance which show us the light, and we walk with this light which will show us the path. But if we leave it instead and start believing in what we see, in what we perceive, then we are letting the deluder, take us to the wrong path. So delusion in Arabic is ghurur, which is similar to ghafla, and it can lead us to think that our intentions are correct. And I said example how we set intentions of prayer before. So how, for example, we think we are establishing a niyyah of doing something, but in reality there is something behind. And that not being able to see that reality is because I'm very, very busy with the external world. Very busy with what I see and I perceive, and I'm not paying attention to what I see and I perceive within. So there is something that I have called twin emotions, and this name came to me in my mind because sometimes we feel something and we think it's something, we give it a name, but in reality it's an opposite. It's an opposite feeling, and I'm to just try to go deeper into this. I call twin emotions that how we perceive ourselves in a way, but in reality, we are actually being in a completely different way. So, for example, let's say that I perceive myself as a humble person because I forgive, and I talk again, second word, forgive, everyone that harms me. So I'm very humble. I forgive everyone. I can describe myself like this. I'm very humble. I forgive everyone. When somebody abuses me, I let it go. Okay. And I'm feeling really actually in a state of no peace, of no tranquility. There is no happiness in me because I think I'm excessively humble. And then maybe what we are experiencing is not humility, which is a good thing, but what we are experiencing is lack of dignity. Okay? Which is a really bad thing because the Muslim never humiliates himself, the believer never humiliates himself. So, what makes a difference? I can perceive two emotions because apparently they are the same. I mean, the manifestation of this emotion inside me looks similar. So, what a person with a lack of dignity probably will behave apparently in the same way of somebody which is a humble person. So a humble person, if we describe a real humble person, will be a person who let go of what people says to him because number one, he knows that those people are speaking from ignorance. Okay, and he will, let it go. Say words of salam. It's okay, but he will not feel affected. While the person who has no dignity will feel deeply affected by the words of the ignorant because he in the bottom of his heart believed them to be true. So the humble one will be in a state of peace and happiness, and he knows that nothing that comes from outside can harm him. But the second one will be in a state of sadness, grief, and pain because he will deeply believe in what he hears, but he pretends he's not believing it. So he's covering or masking his own pain, which only grows deeper and deeper and bigger and bigger. So another example is being a simple person with believing we do not deserve any better. So a simple person who is not focused on material things, on status, on money, on fame, on position, he's a natural person who is fine. He knows himself. He knows that he's not what he possesses. He knows that nothing he has defines him. He knows that he's rich wherever he reaches for any reason, and it's fine, and there is a beautiful wisdom behind it. And he knows that if he would, for example, have more, would not change his natural state of being simple. So being really simple doesn't really have anything to do with how much I have. Because a real simple person, regardless of what you give him or what he has, he will stay or maintain himself in the same way. But in the other hand, we have a person who has the fake belief that he do not deserve any better. So the second one will say about himself, I'm simple. I don't pay attention to material things. So, but in the bottom, in the inside himself, he's in a state of pain because believing that you don't deserve any better is a fake belief, number one, and is really, really painful. It's a real painful situation. It's a really painful thought. And so this person thinks that he's being simple. He has limited things. In the bottom of his heart, he's suffering about it, but he's trying to mask that pain thinking that he's being simple. But in reality, maybe if he would have more, okay, material-wise, he would buy more or do more, or he will feel in the opposite. Maybe he would feel arrogant because he would think that what he has defines him. You understand? So it's a very tricky thing, because in order to see what I'm truly feeling, my emotion can have twins. So when I analyze my personality, which is a fake thing, okay, but I analyze my personality or my reactions in front of situations. And when I try to defend, in identity, I am simple, I am simple, I am simple. I need to look at it. And then somebody tells me, no, you are not simple. It really hurts me. You don't know how simple I am. When I am holding on to a belief, maybe it's an opportunity for me to open it and see what is there behind. The same happens with giving up and letting go. Now, I allow myself to add these names. I don't know if giving up actually might have a positive connotation in the language, but I'm just trying to relate to that. Like, what is actually giving up? Giving up is I give up, I can't deal with this anymore, and halas, I won't be able to achieve. So there is like negativity, there is sadness, there is darkness, there is desperation, there is an apathy there going on. While letting go is saying, hey, I accept the situation as it is. I'm fine with it. I let go. But the letting go, the person who lets go does not necessarily stop having a wish. He just wish it and let it go. It's a different thing. You understand? And so at the end, the emotions come back from only two sources. One is darkness and one is nur. And the darkness obviously is related to negativity, heaviness, sadness, all these things, while the nur is related to love and positivity and good energy. Okay, it's a different feeling. So when I define myself, I'm humble, but my humility is making me suffer. Or I'm a really nice person, but my niceness is making me suffer. Maybe you are not that nice. Maybe you are trying to behave in a nice way so others treat you nice, because you are making a kind of negotiation with people. So when you don't receive this nice treatment from others, then you turn into a really nasty person. Okay? And all these things, nobody can tell that except ourselves. Now, have you ever been in a situation where you are in the street and you see someone and both of you are serious and you feel like smiling, but you're waiting for the other person to smile first? If the other person smiles first, you smile back. So it's a subtle thing that happens in questions of seconds or less than seconds. But all that motion went inside us, because sometimes we are really unable to give a sincere smile to anybody. And if we smile at somebody and someone and that person doesn't smile back, then I think, oh, I shouldn't have smiled. Maybe I am behaving a little bit weird. So if you feel that is smiling to somebody and not receiving a smile back is behaving weird, you really never smiled. You only did a physical motion, but your heart wasn't in it. Okay, your heart wasn't in it. So behind a spiritual ego. So this is okay. I'm going far from this. So just to have this in mind, we need to check ourselves. And that only can happen with a true and sincere self-observation. I call spiritual ego, okay, that attitude of being a spiritual, that attitude of being, I have realized myself, I have discovered how I feel, I have, but behind that is all a mask. Because maybe intellectually I understood that my lifestyle is taking me nowhere. I understood that that the way I have been thinking for this long is not working. So let me change my thought, and my mind is doing the work. So my mind is telling me, now you have to behave like this. Now you have to go and smile. Now you have to go and be soft. Now you have to go and be. And I think that by behaving like this, I'm already spiritual. That's called spiritual ego. When in reality, it's just a self-training, a taming, but it's not coming from the soul. And when we are in that state, we experience a lot of pain and suffering, because we start feeling that this new spiritual style is not really giving the result. And I continue blaming the world, and I continue, justifying myself. I am spiritual and the rest of the world is really chaotic. So behind a spiritual ego, there is suffering, there is pain, there is resentment, there is ill feelings that are masked, there is anxiety, depression, and fear grows deeply. Now, when I mention these feelings, you can feel the heaviness even in the words. Like the essence behind them is a really dark energy. We can perceive it. We could give them a shade. We could perceive them. So, what is the origin of Ghafla? Okay, so the origin of Ghafla, first of all, Ghafla is something we cannot get rid of, not 100% in the world. It's not like something that is out there in the air and we are breathing and then we need to kill that bug. It doesn't work like that. Ghafla is a natural result of living in this dunya. But the conscious choice is to live aware in a world that invites you to that negligence. Okay, so the world and the dunya is designed, okay, in a way to call people to that negligence. And there is a difference between dunya and alam. And I have mentioned it before. Dunya means the lowest. Alam means the sign. And both in the English have the meaning of world. The difference is that the alam is all the signs that take you to Allah, that show you Allah. The dunya is mainly a perception of the life in this world. Okay, it's a perception that is telling us that this is a real movie, that this movie is a real thing happening. Okay, and then you enter into it, start acting it, taking it very seriously, and forgetting that there is a hereafter, which is the real life. Okay, the life of this dunya is a battle between the unity, or going back to the source, and duality or multiplicity. When we see that everything, duality, when we talk about duality, we're talking really about two things, opposing forces. But we can also talk about multiplicity when I start seeing everything separated and not interrelated. So there is this message that tells me there is unity, there is a common source for everything, there is a divine intelligence, and there is, in the other hand, my life, my daily experience is, if I take it from my mind perspective, is showing me a multiplicity and a duality, and that one got nothing to do with the other. Only when I go back to the source is when I start seeing the relationship between one and another. But it's a silent thing. It's something I need to start perceiving with the heart. There is not a voice out there that tells me, hey, watch out. When a situation comes to my life, it's not telling me, hey, watch out, I'm a test. For you to check if we are going to check you if you are really in getting the message of unity, or you think this is duality. It doesn't come like that. The situation happens, and the people act. The people don't know they are acting. So you enter in a place and somebody starts shouting because he really feels angry. Can you get out of yourself for a minute, be conscious, and realize that the person is having a bad day and is angry based on a belief that something awful happened to him? How many times we have seen people screaming, shouting because they have an issue, and then weeks later when the issue gets resolved, you ask them about it and they actually forgot about it. Or let's talk about ourselves. How many times we make of a story, a big issue, a deal, and we talk about it and we were all dramatic, and then a few weeks later or even years later we forgot about it, and somebody asks you, oh, you remember when you had that problem, how did it go? And you're like, which problem? Oh, you remember that last time I saw you, you were really desperate. And then you start making memory, and then you look back, and then you realize that it wasn't that big actually. Okay, so there is this battle. Can you get out of the role and see that it's a role? Can we go back to the source, or we are going to stay stuck in the duality, in the external world that is telling us or showing us that nothing has any meaning? It's a battle between light and darkness. Okay, it's a battle between the low self, which we can call the thinking mind, and the high self, which we can call consciousness, or we can call it nafs and ruh. Okay, and this origin, it's actually since the expulsion of paradise. Since we were expelled out of paradise, we were out of paradise when we ate the fruit. We ate from the forbidden tree. Okay, that experience, okay, or that situation led us to the experiencing of life as it is, as we see it in this dunya. So the seed of Ghafla actually is just there, you know, dormant in all of us. We can let it be awake, or we can just let it be there, sleepy. It develops, the Ghafla, so it's there, and it develops through not paying attention to the oneness. I'm sorry, to oneself. Because there is an obsession with the external world. There is an obsession with how things are out there. So I stop paying attention to myself and I start looking outside. So I start developing, because I start absorbing this information, which makes no meaning, just random actions, and created a belief system. Okay? It develops from separation in the world system and ignoring revelation. So, subhanAllah, this is really interesting, because we have gone through a process of, secularization, dividing things. Religion got nothing to do with politics. Politics got nothing to do with health. Health has got nothing to do with education. Nothing got to do with anything. My personal life got nothing to do with my spirituality, and my social relationships got nothing to do with this and that and that. So it's like from the source that connected everything, the source that connected all science, which is Tawheed, we ignore that source, and then we only focus on the sciences itself. And we see no relationship between one and the other. So that separation, that secularization, lead us to a world system, which is the world system today, and lead us to ignore the revelation, because the revelation is something only related to religious matters, and I am here talking about economy, for example, or I'm here talking about relationships, So Islam brings us to know everything goes back to the same source, and we need to have a holistic approach in order to build consciousness, and second, to give a real solution for our issue. If we only focus on the little problem here, we will open a big problem there. Okay, so we can see that many of the problems of our world today are pretty much related from that separation. So we try to sort out what is breaking here, and a big hole opens in the other side. So this fake belief system also teaches us to search for guilty ones to all our problems outside. Due to this separation, any discomfort that I experience must have a responsible one outside of me. So the process of blaming, and finding guilty ones start. If we turn the attention to the internal world, the question gets redirected to myself. If I start looking for the guilty ones inside me, I start seeing how many of my fake beliefs start showing up. So it's not that the people outside us didn't do anything. Okay, the action happened, but my whole interpretation of it, my whole understanding of it, okay, is based on me not looking inside me. Okay, so Islam, what it does is breaks the fake belief system and call us to that oneness, to that unity. Now, if somebody hits you, does it mean that it really didn't hit you? It did. But everything you experience inside you, you are experiencing it from a point of a perception. So somebody asked me today, actually. So if I see someone who is really nasty, do I have to believe that she's not nasty? That is my perception, that she's a very good person. Well, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that, and I will give a clear example. If I have a book, okay, and it's a green book, that is like the principles, or it's a book about math. Now, do I believe the book to be good? Do I believe the book to be useful? Do I believe that the book is not useful? All my beliefs about the book, not about the reality of the book, but about my perception of the book, are really personal and are based on a belief system, which is inside. So when we talk about assuming responsibility for our feelings, or assuming responsibility for what we experience, is basically that. I have a situation, the situation is not really amazing, I accept it, I look at it, and I start seeing my beliefs coming out. But that's the point where Islam takes us, to go back to us, look at ourselves, break a fake belief system, and establish a system based on oneness. That everything go the same source, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Dunia is an illusion. Okay, we come to this point where we start seeing that what I perceive as real maybe is not that real. The life of this world is nothing but an illusion, Allah says in the Quran. And when the children of Adam came out of Jannah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala it says, we bestow upon you garments to cover your shame, and as a thing of beauty, but the garment of God consciousness is the best of all. And it's a really interesting thing, because when they came out, I will leave these verses for you to read them. The first story is in Surah Al-Araf 7 from the 26 to 27. Okay, you can read them on your own. I'll just give you a few seconds. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the children of Adam and tells them, well, first of all, Allah gave us the garment, and the best of the garments is the garment of God consciousness. Then he also talks to us about how Shaitan seduced our ancestors, and he tells us, don't let him take the garment that he took from your ancestors, which is God consciousness. Okay? When God consciousness was taken away from us, we became aware of the shame or the ape or the nakedness of the other because we became separate things. We forgot our, a single source. We became like two different entities. Okay, so the whole process is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sending revelations in order to make us aware of this reality, in order to not let shaitan deceive us, so that we can live a life with consciousness in order to go back home. Okay? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls us to follow the messengers. The messengers all say the same. Throughout the history of mankind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent messengers to convey the same message. The shape, the external shape might vary a little bit, but the message is exactly the same. It's going back to consciousness of our Creator. And he said, and indeed we made a covenant with Adam before, but he forgot, and we found on his part, no firm willpower. And what happened to Adam is exactly what happened to us. We make a covenant, but we forget about it. So we need to be constantly reminded in order to, understand the reality of this dunya. And this is a very beautiful story. I will let you read it, and then we will discuss the message of it. So in this beautiful passage, we see the reality of this dunya. The reality of this dunya is that it's fake, is that it's an illusion, that we broke a covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that we made, we forgot, okay, we ate, we disobey, okay, and then we were sent here. And here we became, and Allah says in the Quran, you will be enemies one to the other. Okay, so men tend to fall prey of the seduction of shaitan, because shaitan always promises, a lie by the way, to give us a superior knowledge and eternal joy in this dunya, always. And even if we see ourselves how we are seduced by him, it's the same pattern, with different words, with different situations, but it's exactly the same. When we are seduced to give up our faith in order to achieve something, is usually no, it's always something in this dunya. So the first thing that Adam and Eve experienced when they fell prey of shaitan was the duality. They were not anymore a single thing. They were separated. They were not experiencing the natural fitra or innocence. So their shadow was reflected in the other. Their ape, their nakedness was reflected one in the other. So they start feeling ashamed. They start covering themselves to not show themselves in front of the other. They start feeling that. Okay, that is the experience of duality. So they were exposed, and Allah said, you will be enemies one of another. Yani, we will experience separation, we will experience that we are not related between ourselves, etc. Then Allah commands them to follow his guidance, because that guidance, which is the light, will take us back home. Okay, and Allah's guidance is the only light in the darkness of this dunya. This dunya is dark. that those fake belief systems, is dark, is darkness. The only way we have for the realization of the truth is following the Allah's nur. And walking towards the light implies yes or yes, crossing our darkness. Exactly like when we will cross on the Sirat on the day of judgment. In order to reach Jannah, we will walk on the Sirat, and under us there will be the hellfire. It's the same thing. We cross through that Sirat also in the Dunya, because we start looking down and we see our hell. We see our demons. We see our shayateen. We see our low desire. We see everything. We make it part of the shadow that we reject, that we do not assume, that we do not accept, that we do not embrace of ourselves. And Allah says, life will be hard for those who go away from the reminder. Reminder because it's not something new. Reminder is because it's something inner in us that we have knowledge of, but we forgot. And they will be blind on the resurrection, even though they had eyesight in the dunya, because they decided to not use the eyesight of the heart. So they will be awake on complete blindness. Now in this world everything is meaning and essence. In the hereafter is pure reality. So we experience here the meanings of the ultimate reality. Okay, we experience the walking of the Sirat, metaphorically. We experience the blindness of our heart by just following our mind metaphorically and all that. But in the ultimate reality, those experiences that were just in meaning will turn real. We will really experience those things that we experience here, but there we will experience it like literally, basically. And Allahu Alam, Allah knows best. So they neglected the truth, okay? Life will be hard for those who go away from the reminder. Why? Because of the rejection of the truth. And then the truth will reject us on the day of judgment. So on day of judgment, we can call it the ultimate reality in a sense, because that day we will see with clarity everything. There will be no veil between us and the understanding of reality. So what is collective unconsciousness? Is what society reflects. What society reflects is what we are, even if it's a mind level or a passive level, or how all of us indirectly contribute to the social issues. Don't forget that society is formed by us. We think that society got nothing to do with us. So we talk about society, we talk about community, we talk about countries, and we think that we're talking about the land and the soil. And we're talking actually about the people. And I'm part of that team. So whatever I see out there is a reflection of what is inside me. And so it's the thought patterns, okay? And they are based on, yes, family systems. No, we don't inherit sins of our parents. We are not, going to be held accountable for their mistakes, but we learn from them certain fake beliefs and we adopt them as ours. Generational tendencies, what my generation is into, that will affect my understanding of reality. Social and political environments, people experience wars will have a different understanding than people who do not. Peer pressure, social status, etc. Individual response to environment built up the personality. So my response as an individual to whatever I experience is how I establish my personality. Because everybody deals with situations in a different way. And I believe that personality is real. And I'm not saying that we don't have natural tendencies. Our soul have natural tendencies, but we also have a lot of things that are fake, that we have made up in our mind, that are not real, and that we adopted them in order to protect ourselves or to respond to the environment. So when I'm aware of all this, okay, of what we have talked, there is something that starts happening inside me. That is the self-observation. What is self-observation? Self-observation starts by waking up and we start developing consciousness. We turn aware of ourselves. Okay, we turn aware about our thoughts, and this awareness leads us to awareness of God. So we understand the hadith, whoever knows himself knows his Lord. Self-awareness starts by crossing the darkness of the shadow, like crossing the Sirat on the way to Jannah. We start seeing all that what we've been hidden for years and years within. And that is why we're trying to avoid that, because we feel, even though we haven't crossed it, we feel that if we go inside that there is a dark hole, huge thing that we are very afraid to enter in. Allah says, verily, never will Allah change the condition of people until they change what is in their hearts. Our external world will never be affected or will never be changed, either for good or evil, even for good or bad, until we don't change that. So if I change to good, my external situation will be good. And if I change inside me to evil, my external situation will be changed. Our external perception is a reflection of our internal state. Our external perception is a reflection of our internal state. Our external perception is a reflection of our internal state. So we start listening, for maybe this is the first time we listen to this, but basically what I'm saying is everything you see out there is showing you your inner reality. Everything. Everything you experience is showing you your inner reality. O children of Israel, because you had slain a human being, and then cast the blame for this crime upon one another, although God will bring to light whatever you conceal. You know, this is the story of the cow. It's interesting. They start blaming one another, and Allah blames them all. Obviously, there was one killer, okay, or a group of them. It doesn't really matter. It was obviously not all of them, but Allah blames all of them. Allah says, all of you have done this. Because what a person does is just a reflection of what the whole society holds within. That is what is collective unconsciousness. Okay? So when I talk about my society, when I talk about the evil traits of my society, I might be talking about myself. Now I say, if I talk about my politicians, for example, I will say they steal and I don't steal, from certain countries. For example, talking about my country, Colombia, we always blame our politicians of stealing and being corrupt or whatever. But what we are not being aware is that they are just a reflection of our own corruption. And I might say I don't steal from anybody, but we might have a corruption of milder level, or it's just dormant, and due that is because we don't have the position that certain people have. We do not exercise that corruption as they do. But maybe, am I aware that, jumping in the line and, like cheating on people is a way of corruption, even if it's in a small thing? That's why a lie is a lie, no matter if it's big or small. It's just the action of lying itself that, denotes that this person is a liar. And a person continue doing it until he is written in front of Allah as a liar, even if it's a small. So we complain about the external world and our representatives, in this case our politicians, to be liars, just showing how the whole community tends to the lie. Okay, and I know that this is really hard to grasp, because this will imply assuming ourselves 100%, and we don't want that. So I'm going to stop here. Next week I will continue with self-observation and start self-projection. Okay, I will leave with this message where, basically, to wrap it up, everything we see out there is showing me something about me. Everything. And we can do an analysis, like, for example, if we see a society that is violent, we're killing, like a country like Colombia, where, cheating, killing, stealing, it's happening. And you see at the individual family groups, people are not killing, people are not stealing, but they are mistreating themselves in another ways. Because you don't only kill with guns, you also kill with thoughts. You also kill with words. You understand? So we go deep into the meaning of things, into the essence that is behind the action itself. So outside something big looks like big, but in me, what is there inside me? And it's not only at country level, it's at worldwide level. So what is out there in the world, I'm carrying part of that. I'm contributing it. I'm contributing to part of that. So when the man-made system punish a crime, is only really just putting like order or trying to put order to something, but there is a whole thing behind it. You understand? There is a whole system behind it that is not being taken into consideration. So, for example, when we talk about the killing of a person, why there was this killing, why this happened, how this person became like this, who went on and took the life of somebody else. What is behind his mentality? And now it's not taking responsibility away from him, but isn't somehow seeing how we all contribute to the certain state of some people, because it might be that in our societies we live different social differences that are with huge gaps that might lead due to the darkness to social resentment, and these people feel entitled to take from the rich ones what they took. I'm just giving random examples of what could be behind certain behaviors. And with this, we don't say that the person should not be taken into account and that he should not pay for his crime, but we can never pay for the life of someone. But let's say that he should be punished, or in order to be an example of others. We are not denying that. But we need to go and see how we contribute to the system that we live in. Because maybe we all share a little bit of it. Maybe we are all sharing a little bit of, due to our irresponsibility, our negligence, we are contributing to it. So I sent, I think a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if I sent it to you, the video of a whale that came to the ground to die. When they opened it, it was 30 plastic bags. Okay, so this animal ate 30 plastic bags that humans throw. What we are not aware is that we are throwing these plastic bags, and that we are contributing to the animals are being affected, and we are actually eating those animals, not the whale itself, but the small fishes, for example, that are living in a contaminated environment. So our own contamination is coming back to us. We can, for example, talk about immigration of certain countries or nationalities into what the people, what the world has defined as the first world, or the developed countries, the third world countries coming to the first world countries. But if we go a little bit back in history, we can relate to how, for example, in the past, certain nations turned into empires, and they enter in people's countries, took their wealth, and oppressed them. And maybe today, those same people, generations later, are coming to those countries to unconsciously take what is theirs, or what they think is theirs. Because I don't know why we still don't fully get that what goes around comes around. But here we are complaining about social issues. And we might say, I have nothing to do with what my ancestors did, because we don't like to take responsibility for things. But if we don't understand that what we are living is the consequence of our actions as human beings, as mentality, then we will always start looking for the guilty ones outside and not inside, and world will never change. So let's leave this here. Next week, inshallah, we will continue with this topic. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.